Welcome to a bit of an offshoot of gaming history called Dead Games No One Ever Played. It's the same concept as gaming history, only it will be about games that no one has played because they were cancelled before being released. And we'll start with something very topical. Bethesda has come under fire a bit lately because they have announced a new Prey game, one which is just called Prey and has no relation to the previous one. They even just released a new video where they try to explain that no, this has no relation to the previous Prey game. Now, understandably, some people are upset. They wanted a sequel, they wanted the game that Human had made, that Human had almost made, but I'm okay with Arkane Studios making System Shock Prey, mostly because, well, it's not like this would be the first time that the series has shifted. Now, even though on the background you're gonna see mostly the current Prey game, I'll not be talking about it that much. I haven't really played it past a demo, and it's not the actual subject of this show. The subject is the other Prey game. You see, a long time ago, there were 3 games that no one expected to ever come out. Well, they did expect them, they just felt it in their hearts that maybe they never would come out. One of them was Half-Life 2. The other one was Duke Nukem Forever. And number 3 was Prey. This game started its existence a long time ago, about 21 years ago. After enjoying great success with Duke Nukem 3D, 3D Realms decided to make a new game. One that would be a more dark sci-fi rather than the more humorous parody that Duke Nukem 3D was. This is going to be a game set in the present, but a present with a bit more, how should I put it, sci-fi elements like a space station, a spaceship, if you will, that's 3 sizes larger than the Earth and is powered by an artificial sun at its core. And it had 3 layers that were called islands on which 3 different races lived, and there was a 4th race, and you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, hang on, this sounds a bit like Septerra Core, and also the thing that was actually in Prey. Funny you should mention that people that worked on this version of Prey, well, at least one key person, also worked on Septerra Core. Man, that game had long summon animations. Prey was gonna star a character called Talonbrave Sun, or Talonbrave for shorter, not necessarily short. A Native American that would be kidnapped by those aliens one night, and he would have the job of basically saving the Earth from these creatures that have now come to... Well, I believe they were gonna blow up the Earth or something because they made it in the first place and were assholes about it or something like that. There was supposed to be an intertwining of relations between the different species of that station, and also the 4th one that was more secretive, that was more mysterious. Most of the core of the story was actually kept for the new one, the Prey that was actually made by Human Head in 2005, and to their credit, they actually tried and for the most part succeeded in recreating one of the core ideas of Prey. You see, video games were made a bit differently back then than they're still made somewhat the same way right now. Maps, more precisely, they're made in similar ways because we still use technology that was made back then because it works. Like, it works quite well. Maps in most games are made using BSP trees, that would be binary space partitioning. Not all game engines use that. I actually believe that the engine that Prey used, like the new one, used portals, which is what the old Prey used as well, but it didn't use it to the same extent, the idea of generating geometry using that concept. Portals may seem familiar to you if you've played Portal, it's the same idea, only I actually believe that Valve used some sort of voodoo magic, well, not Valve, the people that made Narbuckler Drop and then Portal, used some sort of voodoo magic to actually get away with using portals in a game that's not built on technology that's actually Portal based, but it's either BSP or Octa 3. Can't remember properly right now. But thing is, Portal technology, like in terms of game engines, works differently than the normal structure of ordering shapes and where they are in relation to each other and which is connected to which and what comes after what. Portals can be switched around on a whim. Portals mean that you can make infinite geometry, well, not an infinite corridor, just by placing the same corridors next to each other in a sort of loop, like a straight line, but it's actually a loop. It's quite fascinating stuff that I don't properly understand, so I won't try to explain it further and anger people that actually know what they're talking about. Yeah, I see you in the I know that's I described it wrong. I know that's not okay. Yeah, I know. I understand that I don't understand it properly. Yeah. The fourth comment explaining this, yeah, that's the correct interpretation. Good. Thank you for that explanation. Now, the main difference between what something like Valve has in Portal and what Prey had in Portal is, well, portals move in Prey, like even in first Prey. You can't move portals in Portal, which is kind of strange for a game called Portal. A year or two ago, the internet was filled with one question, like if you were to smoosh one portal onto a floor that had an object on it, would it fly out of the other portal even if the object was stationary? Well, you couldn't test that in Portal at all because Portal didn't work that way. But again, Prey did. Because it was built with voodoo magic technology, and I mean actual voodoo graphics card 3D effects technology, hardware accelerated even, it was one of the first hardware accelerated only games back in a time when Unreal still let you run software. Though to be fair, Unreal still let you run software up until 2004. Now that's dedication. And back to the voodoo technology, the engine wasn't just capable of doing just that, generating portals that would connect space and time in single player and especially in multiplayer. You could make your own portals dynamically in multiplayer. It didn't do just that. This game had dynamic geometry, or at least that's what they kept showing. The only gameplay footage I can find of it is from an interview that one of the developers did for a publication called Infinite Megahertz a while back, like in 98 and 97. There they showed to have actual dynamic geometry, meaning you could blow up everything. With enough damage, you could blow up parts of the map that sort of seem like they wouldn't be the kind of thing that blows up. Like it was, well, I wouldn't go as far as say it was the same kind of simulation that you would see in Red Faction Guerrilla, but maybe not even Red Faction 1 because you didn't blow up the earth, you blew up stuff, buildings, geometry, but it was at least at the level of something like a very primitive Battlefield Bad Company 2. Like, very primitive, but still. This was something made in 1995. Like, to put things in perspective, when this game started development, first-person shooters were still mostly 2D pretending to be 3D. It wasn't until stuff like Dark Forces, System Shock, and actually Quake set the bar for actual 3D in first-person shooters. And yet this game tried to achieve level destruction. And not in single player, no. They stated you could do that to multiplayer maps. The technology they showed off for this game was, quite honestly, amazing. Like even the graphical detail was downright shocking. The level of detail with global illuminations, with colored lighting, that was stuff you wouldn't see like properly done in video games up until 99 or 2000. It just looked great. I mean, they even made it all the way back in 96, I believe, to have reflective surfaces even on the floor. Like you could make a marble floor that had a reflection to it. Like it could reflect characters that were sitting on it. That may not seem impressive to you now, but remember this. Deus Ex Human Revolution had no reflection capability. None. That's why you didn't see any mirrors in the game. Though the original Deus Ex had reflections because Unreal Engine had them as well. The technology that they made for Prey was honestly quite a bit insane because the engine itself was able to run on DOS, but not, how should I put this? It didn't run in DOS, it ran on top of DOS. Prey was actually an operating system. You could use it to browse your hard drive if you wanted to, or you could run, Prey in it. You wouldn't actually notice it was there until you started fiddling with the files. If you just launched the game, it would launch in the game, no problem. And it even had its own API made specifically for it, which was a bit of an offshoot of 3D effects. Well, of glide. It's a bit similar to what AMD made with Mantle and DICE for Battlefield 4, which later turned into Vulkan and DirectX 12. And that technology just kept getting more and more amazing. Like, they had, since 96 I believe, a level editor that would let you play the levels you were making while you were making them. It would let you move through the levels and edit them in real time, which is something you would see pop up a lot more often in video games as time went on. One of the main ones to have such a feature was Unreal, which was a really good engine. And now you have it in stuff like Crysis as well. This was gonna be a game that would allow people to make their own game modes, their own mods, their own multiplayer game modes. It was gonna be amazing. The technology was gonna make it absolutely amazing. And it was never released. Two reasons for that. People sort of started leaving the company to do other stuff. Tom Hall, who was one of the people like that established what the game was about, the story, the themes, the characters, left 3D Realms to form Iron Storm with John Romero, where he made Anachronox. Now, had he stayed, would the game have been finished? I have no idea. Probably not, because you see there was a tiny, well, not tiny, huge. The technology didn't actually work properly. The thing with Portal-based engines in 1995, 96, 97, and a bit of 98 is that although they did have okay performance, they worked well, like they tested it on a Pentium 1 or Pentium 2, and it was working quite well. You didn't have to break the bank to run this game. But there were problems. There were a lot of problems where things just didn't look properly. Things would stick out of other things. Sound wouldn't propagate properly. Physics would not sometimes work. Animations, although they were advanced using bone animations like kinematics, failed a lot. And the game just needed more and more work, which it never really got, because after some delays and people quitting, and even William Scarborough, who was the guy that made the engine, saying he probably shouldn't have made a Portal engine, 3D Realms sort of decided to not even shelve it, but reboot it with other people, and that didn't work out either, and it would be another about, I believe 2 or 3 games before Human Head stepped in, and they actually managed to make a final version of Prey, the one you have now. Well, the one you had up until Bethesda announced another Prey. The Human Head Prey is a fine game. It's as close as they could probably make it to the original Prey. It has the same themes, it has the same ideas. It's not necessarily the same game, but in spirit, it is what the other game partially tried to set out to do. Maybe it wasn't as technologically ambitious, and it already had a lot of the technology that it needed already made, so they didn't have to make like one of the first 3D game engines ever. They already had a competent one, ID Tech 3, but it's still a game you can quite easily call Prey. Now, as for the new one, it's not Prey, it's not Prey even in the slightest. It has no relation, absolutely none. But I couldn't call it System Shock 3. They do not have the property, they do not have the franchise, they do not have any right to that name. They could have called it Space Station Fatalis, but then again, that wouldn't have worked either. So they settled for Prey because it's marketing. Prey is an established name. People know it. Even if not a lot of people know it, enough people know of it. It's been done before. People, at least on a subconscious level, will go, oh yeah, that sounds familiar. And that does help with sales, because people are annoyingly programmed that way. But still, it would be a bit traditional in some way. The first Prey was never released. The second Prey was called Prey Again. The third one is Prey as well. Actually, what would really screw this up is if they made Prey 2 at one time and just ruined the whole in-joke about there being only one game that constantly gets rebooted. If you actually want to play the original version, I don't believe there is one on the internet. And if I'm not mistaken, a while ago, Apogee/3D Realms did post some of their old files on the internet, mostly documentation, but Prey wasn't among them. As ambitious as the game was, it's sadly been lost, unless they do have a backup somewhere on a CD-ROM that's just collecting dust and waiting for Entropy to just destroy it forever. Put it on the web. Find it. You know you want to. And if you want to play the other Prey, well, the demo version can actually be downloaded via the 3D Realms website. They have a list of where you can get a demo. And if you want the full version, you can't actually get it in most places. You may find a box version because it was only launched in 2006, 2005, so there are probably still some about. It's only been, oh my god, it's been 10 years. How long have I been doing internet videos? But still, you can probably find the game on Amazon, on eBay. Not on Steam, although it was on Steam up until a while ago. You know, it's that thingamajig with licensing and stuff and things and corporation stuff. It happens all too often. If by any chance you're one of the people to actually see the first Prey in action at E3 20 years ago, I look forward to your comments. And this concludes the first edition of Dead Games No One Ever Played. Let me know if you want me to do more shows like this one. If you enjoyed this show, hit the like button, subscribe and share it with your friends. Or, if you thought it was horrible, then share it with your enemies and make them suffer. We shall be your weapon of vengeance. But if you liked what you saw, you could, I don't know, maybe donate, because basically YouTube is horrible at revenue, by using the link in the description, or just buy my book. It's a fantasy book about, well, a lot of stuff. I guarantee it won't suck, and if it does suck, you can find me here and complain about it.